My name is Tawanda Makore. I was born in 1979. I was first introduced to artwork by my late uncle Akins. In fact, I come from a family of artists. Yeah. We heard about 3 artists. Unfortunately, 3 of them are gone, and at the present moment we are only 3. There's my young brother Cliff and Albert. Basically, I come from Guruve area. As you know, Guruve is the home of Tengenenge. In Guruve, we have got many artists. Actually, I don't know the number of artists we have from that area. And the other gift we have from where I come from is the gift of stone material. We have got a variety of stones, which I can name a few of them, like springstone, the serpentines, and statite stones. Are found in abundance in the rivers and in the valleys and in the mountains around. So that's basically the source of inspiration from the early artists. The early artists who came to our place, we started sculpting. They discovered the stone in a place now called Tengenenge. From there, a small community was developed by Bloomfield, and from that stone community came a number of artists. As the news spread throughout the villages, people like my uncle were also introduced to stone sculpture by the late Brighton Sango. From there, as we were growing up in the countryside, we used to see our elders making art, and that's how I got inspired. I cannot say that I was taught by these artists, but the community kind of taught us how to carve stones, since that almost all our neighbors are artists. I can mention a number of names like Brighton Sango, Edron's Rikodzi, Jack Jonas, the Sango family, of course our family. So from there, when I left school in 1996, actually I was educated in Bulawayo. I chose art as a career. I then moved back to the countryside in Guruve, where I settled there since 1998. From then, I told myself that I was going to follow the direction of our elders. I was not going to look for another job, but to take art as a career. As a matter of fact, I was young then when I started, but by 2001, I was chosen as a vice chairperson of an art group which we had in our village, which is called Sangan Art Group. By then, it had about 50 artists. Almost all of the artists were older than I, but I was given the mandate to lead as a vice chairperson, of which I completed a year as a vice chairperson there. As our economy was melting down, we discovered that in our countryside in Guruve, we were receiving fewer and fewer art buyers. Then I decided to come this side by the year 2006. From then, I've been working at this place, which is located along Airport Road, corner Airport Road and St. Patrick's in Hatfield in Harare. I've been working from this place since then. As a matter of fact, we also had a very good group of artists, which have got at least 80 artists which are resident here. By then, being here gave me an opportunity to be spotted by a number of art promoters. Whereas in the year 2013, I got the opportunity to be invited in Tilburg. There was a culture exchange there. We were there for 45 days, teaching art and learning from the Dutch artists also there. I had the opportunity to showcase my art there and make some few sales. 2 years later, I was then also invited to work as a salesperson at the Abu Dhabi Art Hub in the United Arab Emirates. What I plan to do in the near future is that I want to build my own studio whereby I work with at least 1 or 2 artists, and then I want to do my work on a private place, which is not like an art community like where we are here. You know, there are some limitations when you are working in a community. It's like sometimes I need to be on my own, you know, doing my thing without being disturbed, without seeing artwork from other people, you know. So that is what I want to do, and in the near future I want to have at least few students a year who would come to my studio. I teach them, I release them after a year. It's like I want to sort of create a small art academy. I don't want to make it big because I understand I cannot handle a lot of people, especially if I want to teach them and then do my own thing. The art form I chose from my childhood, I choose abstract artwork. Basically in abstract, on my early ages, I used to be inspired by the shapes of the stone. That's how I started working on stone. Like I pick a stone in the mountain, then I just follow the shapes, you know, just remove a few things and then polish the stone. Later on, I started to develop my own style. I started to work specifically on cubics. From cubics, I started to work on round shapes. Yeah. At the moment, I specialize in making infinite lines, you know. And my art is more like Amoeba, the round-shaped artwork. Whereas on every sculpture, I make sure that there is a hole and then there is a continuous line on it. Basically, I want to explain the continuation of life. Sometimes I pick cosmic themes, and then sometimes I pick about life, basically trying to elaborate the continuation of life. I use sometimes the theme of Amoeba to try to explain the continuation of life. As you know, Amoeba is the smallest living organism which multiplies by dividing itself. It is sort of asexual, but we as human beings, we have got our own sexual reproductive system, and then the plants also have got their way of multiplying from the seed, and some of the animals like birds, you know, they lay eggs, you know. In my concept, you know, I'm trying to elaborate the continuation of life and celebrating the continuation of life also. This is my beautiful abstract work which I'm working on. The shape on this one is kind of amoebious. It's roundish in shape. As you can see, it's like a leaf which is turned inside out. I call this one Amoeba. It's my own abstract replica of that living organism. As I have already told you that I want to elaborate the continuation of life. I chose the material green mainly on this art form, as green represents life. Basically our art, you know, date back around 18th century, whereby we find the presence of a lot of rock paintings around our country. We've got plenty of those, you know, from the Bushmen, you know. Those are the earliest settlers who came to our country. Then when you go to Great Zimbabwe on its own is a piece of a masterpiece. It's an art on its own. It explains how our ancestors lived and what challenges they had then. But you would find also at the Great Zimbabwe there was the Asian artist who carved a lot of artifacts, from the birds, human figures, and some of the artwork which we are still trying to understand what the feeling they had then. Basically, as our ancestors were working on soapstone, which we also follow even up to today, they also carved the granite. Each brick you find, each stone you find at Zimbabwe is an artwork on its own. Because at if you go to a great enclosure, you find that some of these stones, they were actually chiseled to fit on certain areas. So our ancient artists have been working on hard stones as early as the 18th century. You know, art then is kind of revived in the early 40s. You know, you talk about the Serima mission. You mentioned the Jora Mariga as the earliest known artist, the coming of National Gallery, Frank McEwen promoting art, Tengenenge, coming up, the early days of Chapungu, etc. And the period which was stated as the contemporary period, which dates from the 80s, where you would find then these promoters we had, they started to group us in generations according to what they thought were the standards, you know. Until today, we are being grouped in the third generation of artists. But in actual sense, we are not the third generation artists, because we had the artists who were working on stone since 18th century. So if we are to put our artists in categories of generations, it must start from the 18th century until to date, which we will need some calculations, because there are a number of generations from then. As of the challenges facing our artists at the moment, as you know that in the 80s, there were a lot of art promoters in Zimbabwe who were promoting art. Even our motherboard National Gallery was doing a lot of promotional programs, a lot of competition that were encouraging artists to keep on making art. As a matter of fact, to date, that have stopped. An artist is now on his own. We are on our own. It's like we are kind of eating what we kill. In terms of marketing, we have got a big problem. If an individual artist cannot find the basic modern tools to market himself, if you cannot finance your trips to go abroad, it will be difficult for you to be known out there. The market is big outside our country, but it's kind of dwindling locally. It is going down and down and down. Like we had in the past, in the early 2000, there were a lot of art collectors who were coming from the Netherlands. But if I tell you that maybe we are only left with the 5 or 7 Dutch art collectors, some of them closed the project, some of them died. So the challenges facing the art industry basically goes in line with the challenges that are facing our country as a whole. When the sanctions were introduced to these countries, it did not affect our leaders' industry. It also directly affected the art industries. Because if I was abroad, I stayed in Abu Dhabi for 7 months. I met a lot of people, expatriates from different countries. We discussed about these things. It is true that, you know, people are afraid of coming to Zimbabwe because of the current political situation, according to what they learn from the news media overseas, according to what they are told by the travel agents in their countries. These people are not interested in coming to our country And the other thing is that, I was told by a German friend of mine that, one of the biggest problem we had, in the past we used to have a direct flight which linked Zimbabwe and Germany. Air Zimbabwe used to go there. Today we no longer have that flight. Big airlines like British Airways used to come to this country. We no longer have that link, Like we are here in Harare, of course we know that there is some opportunities in Vic Falls, because of obviously the airport in Vic Falls was upgraded a few years ago, and the tourist resort there, it attracts a lot of foreigners. But here in Harare, we don't have that opportunity. So it puts us as the negative side. But however, I want to say that we are surviving. The fewer art collectors we have support us, and thanks to social media like Facebook, YouTube, we are able to market ourselves. After we are getting a number of art buyers, but they are not enough. But I think that the ministry responsible for arts must come up with programs that actually promotes arts. Our art is gold outside the country. If you go to the Netherlands, I've been there, I've been to Abu Dhabi, our art, a sculpture that you'd find here in Harare being sold for 100 US, it is selling at 2,000 pounds in UK. A sculpture that is being sold for 1,000 in Harare is sold surprisingly in the Netherlands at around 18,000 US, So there is a lot of opportunity. I think if we partner the government, if our leaders are willing to invest in us, our country can have a lot of foreign currency coming through arts.